Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hello.
How you doing, Pat?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm very well, and welcome all to a game of my life with Newcastle United legend Pat Howard. Pat, on this episode we're going to be focusing on the 1974 FA Cup final. ABBA were number one in the charts, and on the 4th of May you met your Waterloo in the guise of Liverpool. Newcastle's 6 previous victories in the Cup are recorded in those history books on the shelf, but your record-breaking 11th final appearance, sadly, history didn't repeat itself.
Yeah, what a shame, mate, eh? What a shame.
Absolutely. But you had 7 battles against 5 teams en route to your destiny. First up was Hendon, but how excited were you to draw a non-league team given in 1972, and how disappointed was it that it wasn't Birmingham City that come out the hat, given a number of encounters early on in the season with Birmingham?
We certainly played him a lot, you know, what with all the different cup competitions, the League Cups and in the league as well, you know, all that kind of thing. We came across Birmingham quite a lot, and there was some bruising encounters, I can assure you of that, with them. And because they were quite a physical team at the time, weren't they, Birmingham?
Yeah, well, Frank Clark said of those encounters with Birmingham, very violent games. In fact, there was a leg break, there was sendings off, there was a number of injured players. It was almost you needed an ambulance on site for just in case it did go over the top. And sadly, on a couple of those occasions, it did go on top. I was reading something in one of the Toon Times the other day. Pat Howard got Paul Hendry by the neck and tried to strangle the life out of him. What happened in that one?
I don't know about that. It was just that, you know, they had quite a lot of physical players in there. There was Latchford, there was Hatton, and lads at the back, Gary Pendry. They were, you know, quite a physical team, to be honest.
Yeah.
And, it just used to get out of hand because it used to be a two-legged affair. And, you know, with the players at our place, and then we'd go down there, like, you know, but there was a bit of bad feeling between us and Birmingham. But yeah, these games are competitive, aren't they?
They certainly are.
If you're playing against a team quite a lot, you get one or two sort of vendettas.
Yes.
With different players. I don't remember doing that, but yeah, I used to be able to stand up for myself, I must admit.
Oh, absolutely.
But they were quite physical. There was Bob Latchford there, who was a big lad, and Kenny Burns.
Yeah.
You know, all that kind of, they were that kind of team and that kind of players. But this is it when you come across teams a lot.
Absolutely.
You can get a bit annoyed with certain people, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
We had a circumstance at Newcastle against Birmingham where one of their players broke his leg. Yeah. And, you know, it rebounded from that a bit. I think there's a bit of tension between the two clubs, to be honest.
It was Tony Wanton. It was Jimmy Smith who broke his leg in the first minute of the game. That was in the Texaco Cup that you went on and won. You beat Burnley in the final 2-1 that season, didn't you?
Yeah, it was. It was unbelievable, really. The first minute of the game.
Yeah.
I think Jinky's always been very, very sorry about the way that it happened. But like I said, the bad feeling between the two clubs was there. And he could look after himself, Jinky Smith.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sorry what happened on that day. It put a dampener. It put a dampener on that match. and I think we ended up beating them easily.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a game, though, to be honest, because it set a precedence with regard to, what had happened. So,
Yeah,
but that was... Sorry, mate.
Sorry, Pat. You run out winners. You drew at St Andrews 1-1. Then
Yeah.
the game at St James's Park was 1-1, but it was abandoned due to bad light. Then the other game was 3-1. You were 3-0 up at half time with 10 men, absolutely battered Birmingham. But prior to that, you played Birmingham City in the league, and then you'd also played at St Andrews and at St James's Park. I believe it went to extra time in the League Cup. Malcolm missed a penalty, I believe, and Trevor didn't, and Blues ran out 1-0 winners. So in the space of 6 weeks, you played Birmingham City 6 times. So it must have been a relief to play Hendon in another cup competition.
What, the non-leaguers?
Yeah. They were top of their league at the time as well, wasn't they, Hendon?
Yeah, I think that game there, you know the score of that game, don't you?
Yeah, it's 1-1.
Yeah, I know. Who scored Newcastle's goal? Me.
Wow.
I think it's that long ago. No, it was what we had. Me and Malcolm McDonnell had a thing about throw-ins, because Malcolm all round so solid and so strong.
Yeah.
That we had this little thing. If there's ever a throw-in opposite the 18-yard line, and you're going to take it, I'll be making the run. So we had that all planned, and that game there, he's got it wide on the right-hand side, and I've just left my position at the back, and I've just gone on a run, and he's thrown it straight in, and I've managed to get my head on it and knock it in. Nope. So, we went close quite a few times because he could throw a ball, Malcolm McDonnell.
A lot of people don't realise, but he had actually recorded, at the time, the longest throw-in in history.
Yeah. Yes.
Didn't I?
And we used to try and cash in on it, though, to be honest. I was probably better at heading the ball coming onto it than Malcolm was. It wasn't one of his strengths. But as a defender, you're running onto something, and we caused quite a few problems with his long throw-ins.
Yeah.
So, Super Mac, Super Mac.
Super Mac and a super thrower as well. But in the replay, you ran out 4-0 comfortable winners, didn't you, away at Hendon? We
beat them easy, But there was a bit of a scare at Newcastle, thinking, well, it's only one apiece kind of thing.
Yes.
If they sneak one or whatever. But we managed to see them off, which was good.
And then in the fourth round, you played again, struggled against Scunthorpe. But if we're looking at Liverpool in the third round, they struggled against Doncaster. Now, you'd played Doncaster Rovers in the League Cup, and Frank Clark had scored his first goal, which was the 6th, because Terry Curran, a young Terry Curran, played in that game against you. He also played in the game against Liverpool, and Liverpool was so close to being knocked out by Doncaster in the third round of the FA Cup. So both of you in the early rounds were very close to not getting to the final.
That's true, that. When you play the lesser opposition, you've got to watch your back, haven't you?
Yeah, you have.
With you mentioning, that's quite funny, you mentioning that about Frank Clark. That was his first goal he'd ever scored for Newcastle, weren't it?
Yeah, it was,
And it was absolutely deafening once he'd knocked it in. I jumped as much as to say to myself, what's all that noise about? And then I realised it was the first time Frank had ever scored for the club, which went down really well, which was a brilliant day for him.
And on that day, Malcolm had scored a hat-trick, and you're right, he got a bigger reception scoring that first goal than Malcolm's third, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did.
Fourth round, you played against Scunthorpe, again, a 1-1 draw at St James's Park.
Yeah.
And local kids in the second game, in the replay, were given half a day off school to attend the match. So again, a cackle of noise from a load of school kids.
Yeah, that's right as well. That he says, yeah, there were loads of kids there, weren't there?
Mm.
Yeah, but luckily we had Malcolm again, didn't we? And we managed to sort him out. But you put your neck on the line, Gabbie, don't you, when you're playing non-league opposition?
Yeah,
like
you do.
Over the past, we've mentioned Hereford, haven't we?
Yeah. That ball whistling past you,
and never take anything for granted. Not that we did.
Mm.
It's just that, if you're on a certain level of play, you don't want the lesser part-time people knocking you out the FA Cup when you're a professional, a first division professional team.
Absolutely.
So, but the FA Cup brings that into it, doesn't it? There's been a few shocks over the years, hasn't there?
Oh, it's been an absolute leveller, hasn't it, over the years? And going into the future, there will be cup shocks going forward as well. For those teams of lesser opposition, getting drawn out the hat, especially at a place like St James's Park, it is their cup final.
It is their cup final, yes, it is.
And some of them will never play in a game of that magnitude ever again. So they raise their game unbelievably. And you're right, if you don't match it, then you could catch a cold.
Yeah, definitely. It's always been the same, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It always will be. It's football, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. So you've got to, so long as you've got a good team and you give a good performance, you don't want to be sort of not play well at all, have a poor performance and you get beat. But you've got to give them a little bit of credit, haven't you? Like you just said, they raise the game, don't they? They raise the game and the occasions there, isn't it? There's 45,000 there at Newcastle, maybe 50,000 there.
Yeah.
This game, and they're on a real high, and but you've got to sort them out, haven't you? You've got to sort them out.
You certainly have, and you've sorted out West Bromwich Albion in the fifth round, 3-0 at the Hawthorns.
Have you ever seen a rerun of that?
No, I haven't.
I've seen that. We played absolutely brilliant that day.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. We murdered them, West Brom, and we got some good goals, and that was a cracking result for us, that one. And I think that gave us a lot of confidence, to go into the semi-final, that one. But it was a really, really good performance from us.
And a difficult, tricky game, isn't it, to go to West Brom? Because, probably not in the greatest of shapes back in 1974, but still a great football club and a very, very tricky game to play against or to play in, isn't it?
It is really. I mean, they were a quality side, weren't they? I mean, there's some good players when you start thinking about the players they got. But on the day, we played well in midfield and we got the chances. I think Tudor, Barraclough, I think they scored. I don't know if Malcolm got one, but we beat them quite easily.
Yeah.
But that was a good day at the office, wasn't it? But you have bad days, don't you? You have bad days. But that was a particularly good game for us, that one, and it was a cracking result.
Well, I'm guessing Malcolm did score the other goal along with John and Stuart, because Malcolm did score in every round of the Cup, apart from the final that we're going to get to shortly. So you've beaten West Bromwich Albion, so you've played Hendon, you've played Scunthorpe, you've gone to the Midlands, you've played West Bromwich Albion. You then draw another Midlands team out of the hat, Nottingham Forest, again at St James's Park.
All right, did Newcastle play Nottingham Forest? I don't know, it's funny you should mention that. Somebody's mentioned that before.
That was a little bit controversial as well, wasn't it, Pat?
It was slightly, yeah. No doubt. That was a game and a half. That we've discussed this before.
We certainly have, yeah.
Yeah, but that was. I don't know. People are still talking about that day. It was just on that day we got off to such a bad start, and then 1-0, and then I think it became 2-0, and then 2-1, and then like I've told you in the past, they get a penalty, and it's going to make it 3-1 if they score the penalty, and I start arguing the toss with Gordon Q, who is the referee then, and voices. My language probably wasn't that good. I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought Duncan McKenzie had stood in the way of David Craig and just let David Craig run into him. But he gave the penalty, and I just lost my head and started ridiculing him, saying that's never a penalty. What are you giving that for? Obviously, if they take the penalty and score 3-1, we're in a lot of trouble then. But anyway, I kept on and on. I'm going to send you off, and I just said I'm not going to go off at all. I'm sending you off. I'm not going to go off. I said, if you send me off, you'll start the biggest riot ever in football. Me there. So quite forthright, and probably I'm out of order. and you can't talk to referees like that. But I was infuriated with the decision.
Yep.
And then, so they get the penalty and the score, and it's 3-1. And before you know it, as I've run off down the tunnel, and before you know it, the next few minutes, all the crowd ran onto the pitch. There was thousands of them on the pitch, running to the Nottingham Forest end. There, I don't think there's too much fighting going on, but it was just a case of the Newcastle fans showing that they disagreed with the result, and obviously me getting sent off.
No, you were taken off the play. I mean, you were sent off, but the players were taken off for something like 15, 20 minutes, I believe. Come back onto the pitch, and you ran out 4-3 winners. Nottingham Forest then put a complaint in to the FA, and they ordered you to play the game again. They didn't order you, really, in effect, to replay it. They just null and voided that game, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And they made you play it at Goodison. Now, I've spoken to Malcolm. Malcolm was quite surprised, looking at it now retrospectively, that the FA ordered you to play at a neutral ground, because Malcolm said, well, surely you should have gone to the City ground, but it was decided Goodison Park. You drew that 0-0. Did you miss that game, Pat, and then played in the game when you won?
I played in the first one,
Got ya.
the 0-0.
Yeah.
And then I was suspended then.
Yeah, got you.
When did Malcolm scored, didn't he?
Malcolm scored. 3
days later. 3 days later, 1-0, and he managed to sort him out. But I played in the first one, but didn't play in the second one. So, but Malcolm there again, you see. So it's nice to have him in your team, isn't it?
Which is quite mad, because in them days it was slightly different, because the cards had to go in, didn't they? And then you didn't automatically miss the game. Today you would have missed that game, and well, it was straight red. It would have probably been 3 games that you'd missed, so you'd have missed both of those games.
Yeah.
But a game you didn't miss was the semi-final. So we're leading up to the final now. Burnley, it's at Hillsborough, and again a brace from Supermac.
Yeah. It was a big match. It was a big crowd as well. There was thousands of Geordies there, and Burnley. Yeah. I think Burnley sold quite a lot of their tickets.
Yeah.
But the fans there were unbelievably on the Spy and Cop end at Sheffield Wednesday. Unbelievable. But what a game it was. I think we got away with it a little bit, to be honest. But then, like you just said, we had the man himself who got on the end of a couple of goals, and we got through. But it wasn't a straightforward situation. Ian McForward played well. I think they hit the post once, and we were quite fortunate at times. But then we ended up, like you say, Malcolm got a runaway with the best pass I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
From Terry Hillett. Bobby Moncurs headed the ball out from a long ball in from Burnley. And Terry Hillett's let it drop in our own half. But what a left foot he had.
Yeah.
And Malcolm's is ready for a run. And he hit it. He half volleyed this ball. And he hit it over Colin Waldron. And Malcolm's onto it. And he's flying away. He has one shot and it comes back to him, and then he knocks it in on the second attempt. But, this is what, Malcolm McDonald was all about, wasn't it? He could get the vital goals. He always used to say to us when we used to get on to him about his work rate, all he'd say, look at everybody in the face, just put your goals on the table. That's what I'm here to do. Get your goals on the table. But they're great days, aren't they? And then, as the whistle goes, and then we're coming off, and we are going to Wembley.
Yeah. Which
is a boyhood ambition of mine, was that I would have never dreamt I was going to be a footballer, would be to play at Wembley in an FA Cup final, and have achieved that goal, which was fantastic. And the fans there, our fans, the magnificent fans, all the time, but they were ecstatic with regard to the result. And I was really, really pleased for them.
Because Newcastle had a great history of being, well, not just a great league team, but a great cup team. And the last time that they played in the FA Cup, of course, was in 1955. So it was a return to Wembley 19 years on from that time, where I believe the great Jackie Milburn would have been wearing the number 9 shirt instead of the great Malcolm McDonald.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the What was the bath like in that semi-final? Because again, today the players will have a shower and they're out, but you see such joyous photographs now. Terry Curran posted one up with Sheffield Wednesday being promoted. They're all in the bath. The bath was the staple. The bubbly would be going. Everybody would be in the bath. The celebration. It's almost job done, isn't it, to get to Wembley? Because again, in those days, the semi-final was at a neutral ground and not
Yeah.
Wembley. How different was that, Pat? Being there at a neutral ground, then you're on your road to Wembley.
I think that the thing was knowing that we were so well supported.
Yes.
I mean, all the tickets flew out, for the semi-final, and it was all right. You've got to play on another ground, But I think Burnley obviously don't get the bigger. They haven't got as big a fan base as Newcastle.
No, they're not as big a club.
There seemed on the day there seemed to be twice more Newcastle fans than Burnley. So it was, you have to play on a neutral ground because they're the rules, aren't they?
Yes.
That's what you've got to do.
Mm.
So you get there, Hillsborough, a good pitch, all right, and away we went. So, playing at home, obviously has its advantages, but knowing that you play on a neutral ground was fair comment, really.
And it doesn't take it away from that Wembley occasion, I would have thought, because when you play the semi-final at Wembley, then play the final at Wembley, I just think as a fan, it must take something away from the final occasion, because back in the 70s, it was all about the FA Cup and getting to the final, the road to the final day. We'd get up, we'd turn the television on, and from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way through, we'd watch the players arrive at Wembley. You'd probably have a comedian on the bus. They'd have football, it's a knockout, and it was just a magical day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was the FA Cup final.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, our build-up. I don't know if you knew this. We went away for a week's training.
Yep.
Which maybe over the years you look back and think, well, I don't know whether that was a great idea or what, because you're away from your family and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose if we'd have won, we'd have said, yeah, it's the best thing we ever did, going away on a week training course kind of thing. But yeah, it's on the day though, Gabbie, isn't it? It's on the day.
What happened the year before is that Sunderland got to the FA Cup final, and they spent the week down there, didn't they, as well? So I think possibly the Newcastle directors have thought, well, Sunderland done it, Newcastle will do it. But as Malcolm McDonald said to me, Newcastle ain't Sunderland.
Yeah, I think they did copy Sunderland's idea there, thinking that was the best way forward. Now, whether it was or not, but that you're leaving behind your family and your tickets and getting organised and all that kind of stuff. But like you say, getting to Wembley and we on the bus to the ground and all that kind of stuff. The memories that you'll never ever forget, which are brilliant, and it's great talking about them now.
Now the 4th of May, the 4th of May has arrived. Newcastle United versus Liverpool. Newcastle managed by Joe Harvey. Liverpool managed by Bill Shankly. We didn't realise at the time, but that was going to be Bill's last competitive game as manager of Liverpool Football Club. Newcastle United previously had appeared in 11 FA Cup finals and won 6, which was a record appearance of 11 at the time. Liverpool had been in 5 and only won it once in 65. So Shankly brought the first FA Cup to Liverpool. The teams that day, I'll give you the Liverpool team. It was Ray Clements, Tommy Smith, Alec Lindsay, Phil Thompson, Peter Cormack, Emlyn Hughes, Kevin Keegan, Brian Hall, Steve Highway, John Toshak, and Ian Callaghan. Sub was Chris Lawler. Now, that is a fantastic team. You had a fantastic team as well. Can you remember your 11 on the day?
Funnily enough, I've got the programme in front of me because I knew you'd be asking me a few things. Yeah, I've got it here. I've got 5. 5 programmes as well.
Wow.
Must be worth a few quid, these
They
finals.
will be, yeah.
Hey, they're in good nick as well.
Yeah.
So Mac Fall, Grant Clark,
Yep.
Alan Kennedy,
Yep.
Terry McDermott,
Yep.
myself,
Yep.
Bob Moncur,
Yep.
Tommy Cassidy,
Yep.
Jinky Smith,
Yep.
Malcolm MacDonald,
Yep.
John Tudor,
Yep.
and Terry Ibbett.
Correct.
That was our team, wasn't it?
And the sub was?
And the sub, well, I've got Alan Kennedy down here, but the sub was because David Craig was injured and Frank Clark went to right back and Alan Kennedy came in at left back. I'm just trying to think who the sub was. Is Stuart Barraclough?
Tommy Gibb.
Tommy Gibb, yeah.
What happened to Stuart? Was he injured? Because Stuart was a really important cog in that Newcastle team, wasn't he?
I think it's just that Joe Harvey chose to go with, maybe a slightly different system. But it was a great avenue for getting out, Stuart, weren't it? Because he had the pace and he'd get down the wing and that. But I think on the day, I think we concentrated on midfield a little bit. And I don't think we caused them any problems, attacking wise. So, but no, he was unlucky, Stuart. And I've seen a clip of it since, and he's sat next to Joe Harvey on our bench with Keith Birkinshaw. You can see that he's wishing that he was playing, but there you go, you sat on the line side, and no. But Tommy Gibb was the sub, was he?
Now Keith Birkinshaw, he was the coach, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was our coach. Yeah.
Did he have much input into the naming of the team with Joe Harvey?
Not sure, Cabbie, to be honest, mate. I think he had good influence with Joe.
Yeah.
What it used to be on a daily basis, Keith would take the training, the coaching, whatever, and Joe would come up, still with his suit on and stuff like that, and just what was going on, and then say things to Keith with regard to how he saw things, and Keith would, whatever Joe wanted, Keith would do, in training and stuff like that. So Joe was a little bit distant, but Keith had a shout in everything that we did.
Now, again, Uddy has always maintained this. A coach is a coach and a manager is a manager.
Yeah.
And clearly that's what happened in a lot of clubs. Bill Shankly didn't do the training. He didn't do the coaching. Bill Shankly was a manager. Bill, by the sounds of how Joe was, Bill was very similar. And I think that people don't understand that as fans, they just think, oh, Joe Harvey was the manager, Bill Shankly was their manager, they must do all the coaching and that. It don't work like that, does it?
It didn't work like that then, Gary, no, it didn't. Your coach was the one that sort of would influence systems of play, who was going to be playing, and then pass that message on to the manager. And I think we were no different.
Yeah.
But he was a good disciplinarian, Joe Harvey. If he told you off, he meant it. And we were all a little bit wary of him. But a good fella to play for, a great bloke, and so was Keith Birkinshaw as well.
Now, the purple tracksuits.
Oh.
What's the story behind that? I know what Malcolm's story was.
As Malcolm mentioned that one,
yeah. I asked Malcolm about it.
Yeah, oh dear, that caused a bit of a problem, that, because as we're on this week's coaching before the final, we've got the tracksuit people there, and they brought a tracksuit. I don't think we picked the colour, but the colour of the tracksuit was purple.
It was a director, wasn't it, that had a sports shop? And
I think it was, yeah.
And these were unsold. Yeah. They couldn't sell them.
Right, that's it. Yeah, that's the story. Yeah. And everybody hated them.
Yeah.
Didn't want to wear them, kind of attitude towards these purple tracksuits. Oh dear.
Because Malcolm was trying to get, tracksuits and one or two little other things that could earn the players a few quid.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
With his contacts.
Yeah.
And, it would have been a great thing for the players. But the Newcastle board had got other ideas, as Malcolm told me. And one of the directors had got a sportswear shop, a little bit like what
Yeah.
Newcastle
Dan
United's
Seymour.
owner today, yeah. And
Yeah.
these were
Yeah.
unsold. They were oversized as well. And Malcolm said the bottoms were that big we couldn't even put them on.
Oh dear. Yeah. Did you get him on about the tracksuit? Yeah. Did you mention
I
that?
done a My 70s show like I've done with
Yeah.
you, and we
Yeah.
talked about that. We also talked about the build up because there was suggestions by the Liverpool defenders that Malcolm had been mouthing off in the press and telling them what he was going to do to them. But Malcolm's version is very different because Malcolm had a column in a paper, and it was the other paper that was chucking the mud at Liverpool and saying things that Malcolm
Yeah.
hadn't said. But history tells us that in 1971, on Malcolm's debut at St James's Park, he scored a hat-trick against Liverpool. So Malcolm would have been buoyed to play against Liverpool because Malcolm McDonald didn't fear anybody. He'd scored
No.
25 goals that season, and Malcolm was always good for 20 goals every season, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. The his first game for Newcastle was against Liverpool, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it was,
And
yeah.
he ended up getting 3 goals, didn't he?
Mm,
And I think they tried to relate that story. That I mean, Malcolm would say a few things, and I think it got blown out of all,
yeah, yeah.
blown out of all. What's the word I'm looking for?
Proportions.
Yeah, all proportions, and yeah, but they try to blame people, don't they? Afterwards, and we sorted him out, and him that he said this and all
Mm.
that. But like you say, going back to them tracksuits, they weren't the best at all, Gabbie. I don't think you'd even worn one.
I think, I mean, I'm like 10 stone ringing wet. I mean, I put on a little
Oh
bit of
yeah,
weight these days. So I could have camped in them. And I think Terry Hibbett, I was probably about the same size as Terry Hibbett.
yeah,
He
yeah.
must have been tucking into them tracksuit tops and trying to keep off the camera lens. So what was it like the day? Because you get to Wembley, you're out on the pitch, you're looking at the pitch, aren't you? You're usually wearing your suits, but you've got your purple tracksuits on. What was that occasion like? Did you feel overawed with the occasion? Did you rise to the occasion? I know the results suggest you didn't, and the performance suggests
Yeah,
that you didn't. But before the game, you must have been uber confident.
I think it was game on.
Yes.
I would have thought game on, but when you the thing about on when you in the team bus driving up to Wembley, and you go Wembley way there, it does start to make your ticker go a little bit quicker, to be
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
because it is big time, isn't it?
Mm.
And the streets were all lined on there, and we're here on the bus looking through the window. Everybody was having a wave and all that, and it really felt the big time, which it is, isn't it?
Yes.
There's 100,000 people
Yeah.
going to be there, but it's quite a nervy situation. Anybody to say that I wasn't nervous or anything like that would be telling lies, because you can see the scale of the match, the amount of people there well before kickoff time, because we got there earlier, like you do. And then when I went down the tunnel, and we all went down the tunnel to go and have a look at the pitch, you felt this is the big time, this.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice if we could win? But there, we're out on the pitch, everybody's nervy, chatting this, that, and the other, and then you go back in knowing that you're going to come out with your strip on in front of 100,000 people, and it's something every person that you would think of that plays football would have wanted to be in that situation, playing in that kind of game. And it was a highlight of my football career. All right, we didn't win, but being able to to play there in front of so many people was mind-boggling.
Did Bill Shankly stare you down? Did you see Bill before the game? Because he used to like to be by the opponent's dressing room door, didn't he? And just have a look and see what was going on. A little bit like what Klopp does today, where he stands on the pitch and he's staring down the opposition. Bill was very much like that, wasn't he?
I think he was, yes. He was. Uh, he'd like to see just how the other team are shaping up, and you can sense any nerves and stuff like that. Then he'd relate it back to his own team. I remember being at Liverpool, and we were playing, obviously Newcastle playing Liverpool in the league, and it was very warm in our dressing room. I don't know if it was a summer's day or what, and I sort of went outside, and he was there, and I just said, "Excuse me, sir, is there any way that you can get the heating turned off in our dressing room?" And he says, I'll get the heating turned off for you, and then we're gonna sort you out there. Yeah, so that was the words I was looking for, and we're gonna roast you out there. Yeah, he said that to me. Yeah, I'll turn that off, but we're gonna roast you when we get out there. And I thought, yeah, we'll see about that. But he was quite right, actually. I think the beat us 2-0 or 3-0. So, but yeah, he was like that. He used to hang around just to see what made the other team tick a bit. So, but
he was a canny old fox and operator, wasn't he, Bill Shankly? That season you played Liverpool on the 6th of October at Anfield, and Liverpool ran out 2-1 winners. So October, it was, it probably was a very hot afternoon in Liverpool. But lots of teams got roastings at Anfield, didn't they? They were a fantastic team. What the match started? How did you shape up? What was it like, the early moments of the FA Cup final, the kick-off scene, and bang, you're into the game?
I think you just wanted to have an early touch, if you could, and just you were just on adrenaline, really, just chasing about and not wanting to make a mistake, and until it settles down a little bit, kind of thing. But it's a very nervy situation, like you said, playing in front of so many people, and you obviously didn't want to make a mistake. So I don't think we knocked it about too much in the early stages of the game. You just used to get it up long and try and push up a little bit. But you just want your first touch to be a good one, don't you?
And you played up against Kevin Keegan and John Toshak, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, my job was really to keep an eye on Toshak. Yeah, because obviously Joe used to give me jobs like that week in, week out, if people were decent in the air, which, I have to say, I think people would say I was decent in the air, so I would get that job of picking, like, if it was Toshak or Keegan, it would be me, Toshak, from throw-ins, from corners, from free kicks. Pat, I want you to, and Keegan used to drop off a little bit, didn't he? Drop off a little bit, but I used to get the job of sorting, the main striker out aerially, and he wasn't a bad player though, Toshak, was he?
No, he was very good. I mean, that Liverpool, both teams were very good. To be fair, you look at the two teams and they're very, very evenly matched, aren't they? Newcastle United had some great match winners, great midfield and a great defence as well. And two of the players went on to play for Liverpool and won European Cups. Alan Kennedy, of course, and Terry Mack. Yeah,
they were in our team that day, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it's just on the day, I think, Gabbie, really, they like it was 0-0 at half time, and I can remember walking off at half time thinking that it's not much entertainment for all these fans here, but we're not playing that well, but Liverpool aren't playing well as well. I still thought, walking off at half time, there's every chance here that we can win this. We weren't playing well, and they weren't playing well, but it was all about the what happened in the second half. And I think we just fell apart a little bit.
So what did happen in that second half? What changed the game? Was it the fact that you'd had to make tactical adjustments to the fullback area, and Stuart Barraclough wasn't playing, who you'd get the ball and he would take you higher up the pitch? Steve Highway was a tremendous player. Did Steve in that second half really come to life and found that little bit of pockets of space?
Yes, I think you're right there. I think it was going okay. It was a real stalemate for a good period of time, and then they started attacking down the wings a bit more, and they were getting men in the box as well. And we weren't doing a lot of attacking, and the first goal I think it would come down the right-hand side there,
Yeah.
and knocked along the 6-yard line. And I get my foot across someone who's got an empty net, but then behind us, we're not organised, behind me, kind of thing. We're not organised, and Keegan's left with a little tapping kind of thing. But I'd blocked one of the players off. I don't know if it was Cormac or something like that. He would have scored. I left Tosha and I went to Cormac just to block him off, so that he couldn't get his foot on it. But then I've had to sort of wince out the way to let the ball come across the 6-yard box, and Keegan's there on my left-hand side, and nobody's picking him up. So he's got an easy side footer. So, and then I think one of the goals came from the right wing again, I think, and it got pulled back, and Kevin Keegan rifled it in, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe that one was the third goal. And yeah, Browne, the one that he rifled in, because Browne Hall, he ducked down, didn't he? And the ball went straight over him into Newcastle's net, and it was 3-0. I think the first goal was Steve Highway. I think Steve scored the first one.
Highway, was it?
Kevin Keegan scored the second. That one he's just peeled off and he's just knocked it in. And then the third one, he's just like laced it over Browne Hall, who's just ducked under, and that's it, game over. But when you go 2-0 down against Liverpool in any game, you know you're up against it, aren't you?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I've only ever watched the match once, because like over the easy thing, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
It's a bad day at the office.
Yeah,
I've only ever watched it once, but I think looking through it, we didn't create many chances, did we?
No, you didn't. I think Malcolm only had, I think, one or possibly two shots at goal, and the ball ended up in the supporters' arms behind that goal.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a day for Newcastle that day.
No, it wasn't, was it? No.
And you just get it like that, Pat. But the one thing is, Newcastle United got to the final, and it's not, as you alluded to earlier, it's not every schoolboy, every player, every footballer, every pro that manages to play in a Wembley FA Cup final.
No, it's not, is it?
No.
It's a great privilege, but you've worked hard over your career, haven't you? And you have worked hard to get to Wembley. Like all the cup rounds you've got to go through, all the, the Notts Forest and the Burnleys and all that. You have to fight through that to get there, haven't you?
Yeah, and you have to fight through the whole of the season. And in that season, 73, 74, do you know how many games you played?
Was it over 60?
61 games.
61 games.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot, doesn't it?
It's an incredible amount of games. It tired me out writing them all down, Pat, I'll be honest with you. You played in 55 of those 61 games. There's only one player that played more than you. He played 59. Do you know who that was?
Was that Malcolm?
No, it was Ian McFall.
Really, the keeper?
But was his name Ian or Willie?
No, that was his nickname, that. Liam. What do we say?
I'm sure it was IAM, wasn't it? Because Newcastle United, it was the first game that I ever watched, Birmingham City versus Newcastle, 15th of August 1972. And I remember this goalkeeper, and I thought, well, what a funny name he's got.
Yeah, Ian McFall.
Yeah, Ian McFall. So was his nickname Willie?
Yeah, that was his nickname, Yeah, that was his nickname.
Who was the joker of the pack? What was the dressing room like? What was the camaraderie?
I think the joker in the pack was probably Terry Ibbott.
Yeah.
And then, there always used to be a bit of comments with Malcolm and that. Yeah, but there were quite a few characters in there. Terry Mack always had plenty to say, and Jinky Smith.
Yeah.
And I suppose I did to a degree. And that's how your team is, isn't it? You see everybody nearly every single day training, and you're always taking the mickey out of people, aren't you? Kind of thing. Malcolm was always one that you would aim things at,
Yeah.
So I remember Terry Ibbott saying to him, we were losing at Wolves, and he just said something at half time. He says, Superman, £180,000 worth of fireworks, you. And Malcolm he got up, so he's going over to sort him out, like, you know. We're all going, no, hey, steady on, Mal, no, he's only joking. He says, I'm not joking. Yeah, so yeah, happy days, aren't there?
Yeah, because there's always, like in the dressing room, I had the good pleasure and privilege of talking to Paul Fletcher on one of the shows, who you would have come up against and marked in the
Yeah,
semi-final. And he
yeah.
says to me, in the dressing room, you'd always have a ladies' man, you'd have a dresser, you'd have the Englishman, the Irishman, the Scotsman, the Welsh. Every dressing room was the same, no matter where you played your football. Who was the dresser of the Newcastle United dressing room?
That's a good one. Right. Just trying to think who was the dresser. Malcolm was a bit of a dresser because he was in partnership with a menswear shop, weren't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Malcolm was a bit of a dresser. I'm just trying to think. Jinky Smith. Oh, I say Jinky Smith. Always looked the part.
Yeah.
You know, like always very smart, and yeah. I would say him. Frank Clark was as well. You know, he used to look the business. Yeah. I suppose me, to a certain degree, I might have been included in that, but that's the way it was, wasn't it? Yeah, look smart.
And in most play smart, look smart.
Yeah, kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, ordinarily in a football season, the FA Cup final brought the curtain down, but you still had one game to play, didn't you? You played Tottenham the week after.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, your memory's better than mine, Gabbie.
Well, I've looked it up.
I think we did. Yeah.
You got beat 2-0 in that game against Tottenham, but it must have been an absolute anticlimactic game where you'd almost think, Gaffer, I can't even bother to put my boots on. I'm on the beach now. Because players are like that. You've had your cup final. The last thing you want to do, especially if you've got beat, go and play Tottenham Hotspur not at White Hart Lane. It was at St James's Park.
It's not what you want, is it?
No.
It's not what you want.
Win the cup, we'll parade it. Absolutely, happy days. Let the champagne flow. But it's a bit like after the Lord Mayor show, isn't it?
It is really, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And I think what with our team and the manager Joe Harvey, he didn't used to shuffle it too much.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a few extra players, but it nearly was the same team all the time, instead of bringing like they do now. I mean, they've all got big squads, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they can lesser it for the ones that are regulars. You can give them a little bit of a breather. But
yeah,
I never had that feeling at all. If I was fit, I played every game.
Yeah.
And which I suppose from the boss's point of view, Joe Harvey's point of view, he liked me. He liked me and he wanted me in the team. But he would never sort of, oh, Pat, you give it a miss this weekend. No, we'll bring someone. Never, ever. So, but it's nice to be wanted, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But they didn't change the teams much, Gabbie, in them days.
Absolutely, and players don't want to have rest days. Players want to keep playing, and I suppose when you're playing the amount of games that you played in that season, 61, as we've said, in total, there's not much training in between games because you're playing a game every couple of 3 days throughout the season.
That's exactly true, that. Yes, it is, yeah. There wasn't a lot of hard training or anything like that. It was a case of get there, a nice warm-up, and we get on the small little area, playing five-a-side. But there was never anything too strenuous because you were always having to get preparing for a game within the next couple of days. And that was the case then, Gary, yeah, it was the case.
And, of course, you'd done all your hard training pre-season. That prepared you for a long, arduous battle, a war of attrition of First Division football season was. Players that were on the periphery, squad players. Ray Hudson was there in your squad at the time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was a good young player, he was, yeah. But it wasn't easy for him to break into the first team, was it?
No.
He was a good player. I liked him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did like him.
Alan played against him in America and said, I'll tell you what, Paul, he said, he was some player, Ray Hudson. We never got in that Newcastle team, but he was a good player. But again, you had a good team, and it was difficult to break into teams in those days.
Yeah, definitely. And we were Terry McDermott, aren't we? with Terry
Yeah.
Ibbott, we got Tommy Cassidy, we got
Absolutely, yeah.
Tommy Gibb,
Yeah.
and then eventually we got Tony Green, which, all right, he wasn't really midfield, he was more of a midfield striker kind of thing. But we had some good players there. For young Ray Hudson, who was younger than us, for him to get into the team, it was a difficult task. But like you say, he made a good name for himself in America, didn't he?
Oh, he certainly did. Tony Green, how good was Tony? And it was a shame that his career was finished by bad injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was different class. I mean, everybody you speak to at Newcastle now says that he's the best player Newcastle's ever had.
Mm.
And that might include Jackie Milburn and, Joe Harvey or whatever. But different class as a player. He was that... He could come up with something, whereas, you might just knock it to each other and all that. But if you gave it him, you know that he could take people on and he could create something else and give the ball to people in better positions.
Mm.
But what a shame. What a shame. He only played, I think, 33 games for Newcastle. But they idolise him up there. Whoever speaks to me from Newcastle from time to time, he always gets a mention. And it was different class. I felt so sad. It's one of the saddest days of my life when he's coming out of the training ground and I think I spoke to him and he just said, I've got to pack in, I've got to retire. And that was heartbreaking for him because he was different class, he was.
What age was he when he had to retire?
I would say, Gabbie, about sort of, I said 27-ish. Yeah. I think I was just older than him. Yeah, a few months older than him. Yeah, but he had the best years in front of him. He wasn't like 31, 32, getting older. He was in peak form. He was. Yeah, I would say about 26, 27, which is a nightmare for us.
That's the age that you really are coming into your own. Them are your days, aren't they? You're 26, you're 27. Them are your best days.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He was sadly missed. Sadly missed. It's not easy replacing somebody like him, is it? Scottish international. He got skills to die for, and he was a great team player, and he was a great teammate as well. He's very, very funny. He was probably the funniest in the dressing rooms I've been with. This Tony, he was always up to some mischief and having a go at people and taking it back. He was a great lad to be around. But what a player!
And I just think that speaks volumes, doesn't it? That you've got a player that's played just over 30 games for one of the greatest clubs in the world, because Newcastle are one of the greats, aren't they? They're a massive club, great supporters. When you're a legend in a great club and you'd only played something like 30 games, that says and that suggests that you are different gravy.
Yeah. I mean, everybody I speak to there, Tony Green, best player Newcastle's ever had. The full stop. Nobody goes, well, what about so-and-so? What about over the years? What about in the Face Cup and all that sort of stuff? No. Everybody, point blank, is the best player Newcastle's ever signed. So that says a lot, doesn't it? For Tony.
What also says a lot, that you played Liverpool early doors next season. You bloody well beat them, didn't you?
Did we?
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the score, and I'm sure that the Geordie faithful certainly would remember the score, remember the game. But I was looking through, and it was a case of a little bit too late that. But isn't that just the way that you play games against a team like Liverpool? You smash them at St James's Park, you have close encounters, you play them in a final, it doesn't quite go your way. Next game you play them, you beat them. It's just football, isn't it? And that's why it's the greatest game in the world, Pat.
Yeah, you're right there. I know I was captain of Newcastle once, for quite a while actually, Gabbie,
Yeah.
For about, 8 or 9 months. And we played Liverpool at Newcastle, and we managed to beat them 4-2. So that was it. That was got back at him a little bit.
Yeah.
But being captain of that team, me and Emily Neal shaking hands and all the best and all that, and we sorted them out that night. But they were a team to watch your back, weren't they? Really, there. An embarrassing moment I had at Liverpool was that we're coming out at Liverpool down the steps and stuff like that. And what it was, they have a sign here. This is Anfield, don't
Yeah.
they? The
Yeah,
sign
they do.
there. And I don't know if I was trying to pull at it or something like that, but I tripped up. I slipped on them steps going down before you go up the steps onto the pitch. So I'm trying to walk, and I can't walk properly. I've not hurt my ankle or anything like that. I've broken 2 studs in my right boot. So then I've gone back up the steps, got the boot off, and as we both teams are coming out, and I've gone up back into our dressing room, and Keith Birkinshaw's there, and he says, "What are you doing? Get out of the pit." I says, "I've just fallen down the steps there, and I've broken 2 studs." And all right, get him off now, get him off. Didn't have a spare pair of boots in them days, so there we are. So time's ticking away. He's trying to, with the screw, whatever he's got there, trying to unscrew it and get it out and put one in. Well, 2 of them. So eventually, after about 5 or 7 minutes, I'm in the dressing room there, and I can hear a noise outside. And I thought, all right, yeah. So anyway, I've got my boots on, I've tied them up, and I've gone out, down the steps, up the steps, and I'm on the line side. So the referee's looking at me, right, can I come on? So then I go on, and I go to my position, because Newcastle had started with 10. Yeah. And Keegan came up to me, he says, "Where have you been?" I says, "Did you not see me fall down the steps there? I made a right fool of myself." He says, "No, I didn't know you'd done that." He says, "Oh, by the way, Toshat scored." So I thought, all right, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for that message. Yeah. Yeah, so for tumbling down the stairs and going and getting my boots done and coming out on the pitch, Liverpool had scored. And I think they went on to beat us 2-0 or 3-0, I think. Yeah, so that was an embarrassing moment. Falling down the stairs, really, and breaking 2 studs in my boots. So I always remember Liverpool for that.
Happy days, Pat.
Yeah.
What a wonderful...
I don't know if you can help on this one.
Go on, mate.
I think Newcastle, not Newcastle, Birmingham City, Liverpool won an amazing run of wins. Yep. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we went there with Birmingham and we beat them. I think we beat them 2-0 to end that long-running winning of matches at Liverpool. I might be wrong, but I think it was with Birmingham that we broke that record for them, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Going back into the 70s, early doors, probably that season, 73-74, Birmingham got beat 4-3 at Liverpool, and I believe Bob Hatton had a goal disallowed for offside that was a goal, but you know what it's like, even before VAR, the big clubs have always got that, I wouldn't say the linesman in the pocket, but they do, funnily enough, get those decisions, don't they? So we got beat that day. We did. I think you're absolutely right. We certainly beat Liverpool 3-2 at Anfield, and I think that's the game you're talking about.
You think it is?
I think Keith Birchin played in that game.
That's right, he did, yeah.
Because Birch was saying, what we'd done, we went 3-0 up against Liverpool, which was quite a silly thing to do. and it really, really wound them up. And they come at us and got 2 goals back, but we held on and ran out 3-2 winners. But it's very difficult to identify when it was a great run of Liverpool, because Liverpool's great run started in about 1960 when Bill Shankly took over and ended in about 1992, didn't it? So, they are an institution, aren't they? Liverpool Football Club. But some great memories there, Pat.
That was the game I'm trying to talk about there, wasn't it? Where you just said that, that's how it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We ended up 3-2, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
That was it. Yeah. So, but it's nice to win there. I think that's probably. I might have won once with Newcastle. No, I'm not sure. No, they always used to sort us out league games going there. They're always very wary of going there, and they used to attack yeah, some good players, aren't they? A good team.
Oh, Liverpool have been for years, haven't they? What a great side. And then when, look, I guess really probably with Shankly, he'd built two teams at Liverpool. He was probably looking at building that third team as well. And sometimes you look at that and you think, is it the right time? And he did retire in the July, but led Liverpool out in the infamous Charity Shield game of 1974 when Kevin got sent off alongside Billy
All right.
Bremner.
Yeah, there was trouble on there, weren't there?
Oh, Liverpool have always been in the news, haven't they?
Oh dear, oh dear.
That was a brutal game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Johnny Giles swung at Kevin, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that was a bit naughty as well, wasn't it? That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, it's been a wonderful trip down memory lane, sir.
Yeah.
Can I thank you so much for your time?
I've enjoyed it, mate. Honestly, I really enjoy having a natter with you.
Absolutely. Likewise, the feeling's mutual, and we'll hook up again shortly for another game of your life.
Yeah, but I think I've got notes here. We could go on forever, couldn't we? Go on forever.
Well, if you've got them notes, you give me them notes and you roll them out now. We'll go on for it. We'll go on in extra time if you've got some notes to reminisce with.
Well, it's just that, the game itself, all right, we get beat and stuff like that, and then you go back to the hotel, don't you? We were in the Russell Hotel, and it's been a bad day, but then anyway, we go up to the room and we obviously change our gear. We've got suits and all that sort of stuff, and then it's quite funny really when I came back down, and all my family's there, my wife, my mum and dad and my sister and her husband, they're all there, and I go to the bar for drinks, and it's a mixture of drinks, a big tray and I'm all nicely done kind of thing, colour and tie and all that, and as I turn around, somebody walked into me and knocked all the drinks from head to toe all over me, and I just thought to myself, right, I'm not having the best of the day, am I? And then my mum and dad forgot the name of the hotel they were in. So we had to, a bit later in the night, we had to have a ride round to try to find out where they were. So it was one of them little jobs. I didn't want it at a time like that. But, I think meeting Princess Anne and that in line there is 100,000 there. It's been viewed all throughout the world. It is the big time. It is the big time. And meeting her, she was very, very, very nice, very polite. And, I'm just so sorry, though. I think my last line would be to you, Gabbie, is I'm just so sorry that we couldn't win that for unbelievable supporters of Newcastle United. They're the best fans in the world.
They certainly are up there, aren't they? Always have been and always will. You could put, I think Tommy Docherty said this about Aston Villa, you could put a clothesline across and, with 11 Newcastle United shirts, and there'd probably be 50,000 turn up to watch that.
Yeah. Just last couple of things, during the game, as it's 3-0, and John Toshak came up to me, he says, Pat, we're doing well, aren't we, kind of thing. And I thought, all right, what's he talking about? He says, do you mind if we swap shirts after the game? Which I thought was nice from his point of view. Yeah. It was his idea. So then I've swapped shirts with John. And, I've got a winning FA Cup final shirt, but I weren't in it. Yeah, that was a nice gesture of John Toshak, wasn't it?
Did you, collect many shirts, Pat, during your career?
I've got a few, Gabbie. Yeah, I've got a few. Yeah, that one. I'm upstairs in my office upstairs, and it's just in the drawer here, just here. But it's been there all these years.
Wow.
And I'm looking to get some information about, the cup final and the referee and all that kind of stuff. And it's surprising what you keep, isn't it? Over the years, I've got 5 cup final programs here. So, yeah, but it was an honour to be able to play at Wembley, and just, like I say, just sorry that we couldn't get the cup.
And you need to put all these memories in a book, Pat.
You've often said that to me before,
Yeah, I
haven't
think
you?
you should. I think all professional footballers should,
Yeah,
because they're all unique stories you've played in and against, and there's that many different situations that you've been in during your career. I think they're for genuine fans. They would love to pick up that book and read it. It's a memento, isn't it, of what you gave those supporters as a player back in the day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But great to speak to you, mate. Honestly,
Top
I've
man,
really enjoyed it. Best regards to Alan.
will
And
do.
if you ever see Keith Birchin or anybody that you think I might know, give them my best wishes, mate. And many thanks for the call.
Will do. Just as we're leaving, what was the greatest game that you ever played in?
I would say that semi-final win
Yeah,
against, that was my me as a kid. That is, I wanted to get to Wembley.
yeah.
That beating Burnley
Mm.
was the greatest game to win that one. And we've spoken before. It was an absolute honour. Maybe 18 months before, we went playing in Hong Kong, and we were playing against Pele. And that, to me, says it all, doesn't it? Like these are things you could only dream of. Playing in an FA Cup final, and then playing against Pele and his team in Hong Kong. These are things that that you play the game for. But
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I got to the top, whereas a lot of players maybe might not just be quite good enough to get to that next level. But then it opens all doors, doesn't it? FA Cup
Absolutely.
final. A couple of years later, the League Cup final against Man City. We could go on and on forever, couldn't we?
Well, we've got a couple of games that we're going to revisit. That cup final against Man City. We'll have a chat about that. We'll have a chat about the game in Hong Kong against Pele, and you also had a couple of decent games in America for Portland Timbers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I went out there I was probably there 4 or 5 months, played in their season.
Yeah.
I was on loan, and we got to the semi-final, and the New York Cosmos, we got them in the semi-final. But yeah, that was an experience of a lifetime going there. But
So
I don't think I timed it well, Gabbie. I'd played nearly all the games for Birmingham in the season. Then James Smith called me in. They would have wanted to buy me, and I said, well, look, I'll go out on loan. And so I'd had a full season in England. Then I go there and I play another 22, 23 matches there, which I played a lot of football in that particular year. And my first game back is, funnily enough, against Liverpool. And, I went down on my knee, and I ended up having to have a cartilage operation. But I think I put it all down to too much football.
Yeah.
And then coming back, and your muscles weren't quite right, and my knee caved in, and I had to end up, having a cartilage. But they didn't find out it was a cartilage problem for about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks in them days. So I had that done, and then before you know it, like, the season's coming to an end. But it's a lifestyle that you never forget, isn't it? Being a professional footballer, I'm one of the very, very lucky ones to have made the grade.
absolutely, because again, you're right. In those days, things wasn't diagnosed. I mean, what he said at one of his clubs had a gynecologist who was his doctor. Says it all about the organisation of football in the 70s, doesn't it?
Really? Oh dear.
Oh, no. On that note, we will reconvene and we'll talk about another game of my life.
Can't be bad, mate.
Cheers,
Can't be bad.
Mucker. Thanks, Pat.
Right, lovely to speak to you, Gabbie. All
Cheers,
the best.
mate. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.